You are listening to a Core Confidence Life production. www.coreconfidencelife.com. All right, love and marriage goes together like a ham and cheese sandwich. All right, welcome to the Core Confidence Life. I am your host, Dennis, coming at you. And today we are talking about marriage. You guessed it, long-term relationships in marriage. How to keep love alive, how to keep romance alive, how to keep sex alive in any long-term relationship or marriage. And we've spoken about this before, but we're going to do it again. All right? So stay tuned for our special guest. And she is going to be talking about how you, as a man, can keep the home fires burning. Let's do it. Oh, the Core Confidence Life. Welcome to the program. If this is your first time here, welcome, and tell about 1,900 of your friends, right? Because on this program, we are all about helping you to develop core self-confidence and center yourself in your power as a man. We help you do that. Yes, we help you do that. And so I would love to hear your comments on this show or any other show, right? Get in touch with me rather quickly at Dennis@coreconfidencelife.com. That's Dennis@coreconfidencelife.com. And I invite you to go to the website, coreconfidencelife.com, and leave your comments under this show. This show will be under CCL 16, folks. So on today's program, I forgot to give you a disclaimer, all right? Just in case I say words that sound like duck or truck or luck, just in case I say a word that sounds like that, you have been warned. All right, we are talking about love, romance, sex, relationships, marriage today. We have a guest coming up on the program, and she is going to tell us as men how to keep the love, romance, and sex alive in our marriage. You know, when you're in a long-term relationship or a marriage, you know, it's all exciting in the beginning. Oh my God, it's so exciting, and you want to be with them all the time, and you know, you want to stick it to them every night, every night. But as relationships continue, sometimes they get a little stale, right? But we don't want our relationships to get stale. We don't want sex to slack by the wayside, right? So we're going to have a guest to tell us all about it. But you know what? Since we're talking about marriage, I thought that we would do a proper ceremony. We are gathered here today to join this man and this woman in holy matrimony. So do you take this man to be your lawfully wedded husband?
Oh, yes, darling, I do. Sock it to me.
Okay. Do you take this woman to be your lawfully wedded wife?
Well, I guess I have to, don't I?
Lesli Doares is a marriage and family coach from North Carolina. Her program, the Hero Husband Project, aims to help married men keep the love and romance alive in their marriage, and also to understand that marriage is more than just being in love. We are on the Core Confidence Life today talking about marriage. Hopefully love and marriage, I guess, but marriage nevertheless. And with our guest here, Lesli, how are you?
I am absolutely terrific. Thank you. How are you today?
I'm doing great. You know, we just had some technical difficulties that the listeners didn't hear. Haha. But, you know,
Thank goodness. Yeah.
Thank goodness, right? So you're here talking about marriage. You're a marriage coach. Tell everybody what you do, what you got going on with you currently.
Well, I've been a marriage and family therapist for years, and I don't like the traditional therapy concept. So I've moved into coaching, which I think is a much more effective way of helping people with just the normal everyday challenges of being in an intimate, personal, long-term relationship.
All right. So marriage, you know, you're a marriage and family therapist, and now you're a coach. So
Mhm.
talk about marriage. You know, what are the factors that go into people's decision to get married?
Well, most of the time when I talk with people and I ask them, why did you get married? And they say, because we were in love. Now, as you were talked about before, yes, I think that love and marriage belong together. From a personal standpoint, I never use miserable and marriage in the same sentence. I don't think they belong together. Unfortunately, because most people are in love and they think that love is all you need, to quote that famous song, then they don't really know how to handle the normal challenges that come with being in that kind of a committed relationship.
So, what are some of those things that you need aside from love? You mean to tell me love is not enough?
Nope,
Oh,
love is not enough. Hate to tell people that, but love is
oh,
not enough.
man.
Although it is critically important, but most people get confused and they think of love more like a noun, and it's actually a verb. You actually have to continue to be loving and continue to do loving things. And unfortunately, that's one of the challenges, is how to keep love alive through the years and not let the everyday stresses, focus move off of our partners, which is what tends to happen. And we end up taking each other for granted and not putting in the kind of attention that it requires to keep the relationship going.
Yeah. And so tell me more about specifically, so the Hero Husband Project.
Yes.
Tell me more about that.
Well, that's my new baby, because one of the things that I've discovered over the years of doing my work is that one men hate the whole concept of counseling, which I don't blame them, because most of the time they look at it as a punishment, and they frequently think that they are going to be ganged up on, which quite frankly is a lot of reasons why women call counselors, is because they want the counselors, to tell their husband that the husband is wrong. The husband isn't wrong most of the time. The husband just has a different perspective. And it's really important to have both parties' perspectives be taken care of. It's not a relationship if one person isn't included. And unfortunately, I really think that that's what's happened with men. Most relationship advice is by women for women, which leaves out half of the couple.
Yes, it does.
So the Hero Husband Project was designed to help those guys, and I believe most guys are good guys. I don't believe, yeah, that's not to say there aren't some jerks out there, but I think there are female jerks as well as male jerks. So I don't think that guys have have any kind of monopoly on being jerks. But most guys are really good guys. They love their partners. They want their partners to be happy. They love their families. They love their children. And they're doing the best that they know how. And that's part of the challenge, is that nobody ever explained the rules of the marriage game. And that's what the Hero Husband Project is specifically designed to do. And it's designed for any guy who's ever asked the question, why does she do that?
Why does she do that? I don't understand why she does that.
Right. And I mean, and so one of the things that I've learned over my work is that I really can translate what's going on with the women in a way that the guys can understand, and in a way that they can actually do something about, and that they don't feel blamed. They're given actual tools and skills to be able to have the kind of relationships that they really want to have.
So you mentioned the rules of the road of marriage and how to deal with all these dynamics. So what are some of the rules of the road for men? What should men know when entering a marriage or dealing with their wives?
Well, one, they think that their wives are never going to change, which is a really bad idea. And one of the things also is that guys are kind of into the pursuit. And so a lot of times once they get their wives, they stop doing some of the things that won them in the first place. And so one of the things, and I don't care who you go see, I don't care who you talk to, one of the biggest pieces of advice is to stay focused on you guys as a romantic couple. So whatever it was that you were doing before you got married, you need to continue to be doing after you got married. So if you went on dates, you still need to date. And oh, by the way, dating is not, everybody talks about date night. Date night does not mean you go to a local restaurant and dissect your relationship. Oh my God, who wants to do that? Nobody. Oh, what dates mean are you are doing things to have fun. You are doing things together that the two of you enjoy, because that's what keeps the in-love neurotransmitters flowing. That's what keeps you connected. It gets you out of the day-to-day, and you're actually enjoying each other's company. Now, what a concept that I enjoy my partner's company.
Oh, my goodness.
I know. Who wants that? And it's about continuing, if both of you are interested in having a physical relationship, because that's also an important part of keeping the relationship alive. And here's another part that most people don't think of. You actually have to do things just by yourself, for yourself. So going and hanging out with the guys playing ball or having a beer or whatever, and the wives going and hanging out with the girls on occasion, because then you stay interesting to each other.
Now that's very key there, like being able to, have a partner and still maintain other areas of your life, because your life doesn't stop because you got married. It just doesn't. And a lot of people make this mistake in relationships, married or not, that once they have somebody, it's all about them. They have to hang around them. They drift away from their friends, and they just get all consumed. And I say that's the wrong direction.
Well, part of that is part of the in-love process, because when we fall in love with somebody, it really is all about them. We only want to be with that person. But the problem is that the in-love phase only lasts for about 18 months to 3 years. And then we have to have a plan after that. I mean, if you sit down at your job and you go through your performance appraisal or whatever, people, your boss or whatever is going to ask you, well, what are your goals for next year? Where do you want to be? Where do you see yourself? Guess what we don't do that with? We don't do that with our relationship. We never sit down and go, what do we want to look like in 5 years or even next year? And it's about setting a course, deciding, okay, this is where we're going to go. And so if we get off course, it's a lot easier. So it's like, say, okay, I want to sail to Jamaica. Okay, fine. If I find myself in Greenland, I was really off course.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't just climb into your boat and push off without any direction, because then you're going to end up, who knows where you're going to end up. But if you know where you're headed, then you can keep yourself on track. And that's really what happens with relationships, is we stick them on autopilot, because nothing's going wrong. Everything's kind of smooth sailing. But if we're not paying attention, then one little thing is going to capsize us.
Yeah. You got to pay attention. You have to be attentive to what you've entered. It's sort of like, now you have it, so that then, the complaints that each side of a marriage has. Sometimes women say, he did all these wonderful things, but when we got married, all the romance stopped. Mm-hmm. And the guys, of course, say, yeah, we had a lot of sex until we got married, and now I get none.
Right. And they don't put those two together, because 1 and 1 does equal 2. And what happens is in a marriage or any long-term relationship is that you've got a built-in scapegoat. If something isn't the way I want it to be, I look at what the other person is doing versus how am I contributing to this, which is a much harder question to ask, but it's the one that we actually have the answer for, that we actually can do something about, because we can't actually make our partner do something different. We can potentially influence them, but what we actually have 100% control over is what we're doing. And because men and women experience the world differently, what works for one isn't going to work for the other.
You mean men and women are different?
I know, it's shocking, isn't it?
You're kidding me.
I know. Anybody, I mean, I'm the mother of a boy and, well, actually a man and a woman now, they're grown. And anybody who says boys and girls are not different has never seen one of them come up from being an infant. Same family, same genetic makeup, you name it. And my daughter is very different from my son, both, you know, in the masculine and on the masculine and feminine scale. They're different in other ways too, but on that. And the idea that we're the same is crazy. We're not. It's how do we celebrate our differences? I don't want my husband to be a woman, and he certainly does not want me to be a man.
No, goodness. But what do you think about? I'll throw this question out there since we're talking about the differences between men and women. Shocking. I know it's a breaking news.
I know.
So what do you say about people who say, well, men and women are only different because we expect them, like we culture them into being different. Like, you know, if you're having a boy, oh, let's go get blue. And, you know, if we're having a girl, let's get pink. And we kind of precondition them as infants to be different because that's what we expect. What do you think about that?
Well, I think that there is some truth to that. But the way that I view the world, and I'm not quite sure how I came to this, is I don't like extremes of any kind, the yes, no, black, white, boy, girl kind of extremes, nature, nurture. We can't separate them. We are a combination of these things. But in reality, men and women have both masculine and feminine characteristics. Now, women tend to have more feminine characteristics. Men tend to have more masculine characteristics. But there is crossover. Men do have feminine characteristics. Women do have male characteristics. And that's where it gets confusing. And that's where the old rigid rules of, you know, women have to stay home, have babies. Well, women have to have the babies anyway. Guys can't do that. But, you know, but they can't do certain jobs. Well, that's not true. Just like men can do certain jobs. And so the old rigidity and the old rules are falling by the wayside, which is good for both men and women, but it also makes the whole thing harder. Because at least if I knew, okay, here's the role I have to fulfill. Now, I might not like it, but I at least know what the rules are. Now, it doesn't seem like there are any rules, and that's why it is becoming so complicated.
So how do you remedy that? You know, the fact that some of the old traditions, the rigid standards, the top-down whatever is kind of disappearing, and men aren't sure what's going on. Because a lot of men complain about, I'm not sure what's going on. I'm not sure how to be a man. I'm not sure how to treat women. I'm not sure where I stand. How do you bridge that gap? How do you help men kind of fit into this new lack of tradition or whatever you want to call it?
Well, I think it's true for all of us. And my least favorite word in the English language, and I would get rid of it if I could, is the word should. And that's what the old rules were. To be a man, this is what you should do. To be a woman, this is what you should do. I don't like the word should. Now, when we throw out the word should, then we're left with what fits for me. What are the things that I do that might be traditionally masculine if I'm a guy, that I enjoy doing, not because the great they, whoever they are, and if I ever meet them, I'm going to smack them. um, to say, oh, this is how you have to be. It's like, no, this actually fits for me. So if you love playing sports, go play sports. If you don't like playing sports and you like doing something else, go do that. It doesn't have anything to do with you being more or less of a man.
What if I'm a man and I like to braid hair, or I don't know, design dresses?
Go for it. But it's the external that says, oh, well, real men don't do that. I mean, it's like one of the things that drives me crazy. Real men don't cry. Really. That is not a true statement. I mean, it's talking about sports. All you have to do is watch at the end of the end of the World Series or the Super Bowl, or, these guys, these guys who've given everything, they've left everything out there, and they lose and they cry, and it's okay.
That's an excuse, though. There's certain things, if you want to get into this traditional male thing, there's certain exceptions to the don't cry rule. You can cry over, I guess, a death or your mother or something like that, or like you were talking about a sports game.
Right.
But you can't cry in any other instance, like at a movie, or because you're emotional, or because you're happy. You can't do that.
Well, actually, that's the removal of the rigid rules. Yes, you can. And that's really what we have to give men permission to do. Because traditionally, again, the emotion that men were, quote unquote, allowed to feel is anger.
Yep.
And the problem is that human beings cannot shut down certain emotions without shutting them all down. And that's part of the challenge of this. And part of the challenge is inviting men to feel, because they do. Now they may not say it, but they sure as heck feel it. And the question is, how do we give them permission to step out and express that? Because some guys do cry at movies. Some don't, but some do, and that's okay. And I think that the more permission is given, the easier it's going to be. And we need to stop telling little boys to not cry. Or one of the worst things that happens, and I cannot stand this, and it's part of the reason why I do what I do, is when either there's a death or there's a divorce, and somebody says to the 5-year-old little boy, "You're the man of the family now."
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God. Let's not put any pressure on this kid.
Yeah, I know that's the traditional. You're the man in the house now.
Yeah, it's like, oh, my gosh.
You're
no.
5.
Yeah, he's 5. It's like, or even if he's 14, it doesn't matter. It's not the message that we need to be giving them. And so part of this is providing a safe space for men to talk about this with each other in a real way, where they're not going to be judged, they're not going to be blamed, they're not going to be told that they're wrong.
All right, so this is, for me, the question is on its knees, begging for me to ask it, okay? It's begging. So
okay.
In your view, what is a man? Aside from the physical attributes, what is a man?
Wow, that is a really good question. For me, a man is somebody who steps up into their lives. They are willing to take care of themselves first. Now, does that mean that they have to have a job? I don't know, not necessarily. But most of the time we want a roof over our heads, food on the table. So unfortunately, in today's world, that's what it means. It doesn't mean you have to be on Wall Street, or it doesn't mean that you have to be, whatever. It just means that you are stepping up and you are taking taking responsibility first and foremost for yourself. You're not expecting other people to take care of you.
So if you are being, after a certain age, of course, if you're continuing to be codependent and having other people pay your bills and put underwear on your butt,
Yep.
You, in your view, are less than manly.
Yes, and I would say the same thing if for a woman, that if you are not taking care of yourself, you are also.
Okay.
It's
But
not just
that
a
makes
guy.
me bounce back to the original question. So
What's
if
a
a
man?
man is a man for taking care of himself and a woman is a woman for taking care of herself, then what makes them different?
Well, in some ways they aren't, but in some ways it's, if you go back to the biology, which we can't really get away from, in that, men tend to be the providers and the protectors because they're stronger. Now, not all guys. I mean, this is a very general, because if you could take a specific man and a specific woman and this won't be true. But men tend to have the physical attributes. They tend to be a little bit more of the risk takers. So they're the ones who are going to find the new pathway. But they also can be nurturers. Now, again, that's that going back to that feminine, masculine traits that we all carry in us. And it's just a question of which ones we are most comfortable with and most willing to step into. And so it's learning how to find both. And I'm not sure I like the delineation specifically of what defines a man, because for me, it's what defines a human being, what defines an adult. And by the way, marriage is for adults. It's not for kids or adolescents.
Yeah. It used to be in the old laws, but no, that's not anymore.
Right. But I'm talking about emotionally.
Yeah.
Because you could be 65 years old and still be an adolescent.
Yeah.
It's not about age. It's about stepping into that next phase, especially if you're going to be a parent.
Yeah. So I guess maybe I should ask too, you describe what the tendencies would be for a man. What would be the tendencies of a woman, like other than the neutral parts of taking care of yourself and so forth? So, yeah.
Well, again, the more feminine qualities are considered, are the nurturing qualities, the mediation qualities, the trying to find the solutions, and part of the reason why they're considered, our society considers them less than, is because they're the more emotional qualities. They're the ones who drive the connection. And part of that has to do with the fact that women have access to the bonding hormone, oxytocin, pretty much at the drop of a hat. Men can access oxytocin, but it's more situation specific. And that's one of the reasons why oxytocin is released with men when they have children, because the biology says you need to protect your offspring to carry on your genes.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is part of the natural process, which is why I don't break out. It's very hard for me to say, oh, is it nature or nurture? Well, you can't really separate them.
Yeah, they're too intertwined.
Yes.
Yeah.
And to me, it's false. It's not figuring out, it's not paying attention to try to separate these things. It's how do we combine them? And that's what I feel about marriage. Marriage isn't you versus your partner. It's you and your partner creating something even bigger than the two of you, which is what makes it so challenging.
Yeah, because you have three different things you're dealing with. You're dealing with yourself, you're dealing with your partner, and then you're dealing with the relationship, which is a combination of you and your partner. So
exactly,
there's three things to consider there.
And to me, you can't have the relationship if you don't have both individuals.
Yep.
But the relationship actually is kind of overlaid. I look at it as the umbrella that both people are under, and the relationship is what helps them navigate life. But it's about learning how to negotiate. Where do you want to go? And
so we were talking about this before. So what do you think of the whole toxic masculinity? I know that's one of your favorite. Sarcasm alert.
Yeah. Well, I think it exists. But again, that's somebody who just has not grown up, as far as I'm concerned. Toxic masculinity is when it's all about me and what I want and what I need, and I don't care about anybody else. And I don't think that's most of us. I think that there are some people who fall into that, but I don't think that's most men. And I don't think that painting all men with that brush is fair or helpful.
Yeah, a lot of men get upset at the term toxic masculinity, because it just sounds like it's like a horrible thing, like you're attacking men. But I tell them, I say, look, everything can be toxic if you take it to an extreme. Maybe you don't like the word toxic being paired with anything manly, but everything is toxic when you take it to the extreme.
Exactly. And it's about finding a balance. It isn't about men not being men, because quite frankly, that's not really what women want. And it annoys annoys isn't even the word. It infuriates me when there are women who say, well, men aren't necessary. All we need is to take their sperm and we don't need men. It's like, oh my gosh, I don't want to live in a world without men. No. Oh my gosh, no.
No.
But
Heavens to Betsy.
It's like, it's how do we, I said this before, how do we celebrate the differences? It's not an either or, it's a both and, is basically my philosophy. And I think that men have been left out of the conversation for too long.
Good. This is great. This is great stuff.
Glad.
Yeah, absolutely. This is great stuff. So what do you think if someone is considering, I want to get married. I know someone and she's great. Like, what do you think are like the 3 biggest elements of a marriage that make it work, make it last?
One is you have to be able to trust each other. And trust is built on honesty. So you cannot lie to each other. I'm a proponent of what I call radical honesty, where, now this is not brutal honesty. Oh my gosh, we don't have to be mean. But we do have to be honest about where we've been, what we're doing, what we're feeling, what we want to do, being able to be completely honest with our partners, which means we have to be honest with ourselves first. Then we have to know how to communicate well, which most people do not do. That adage about it's okay to fight, you just have to learn to fight fair, makes me want to scream. Fighting, there is no positive to the word fight at all. You and your partner are going to disagree, but fighting is a choice. And there are ways to learn to communicate where there aren't harsh words, we don't name call, we don't dismiss the other person's feelings. And then the other thing, which kind of goes along with trust, is respect. If I respect you, then I will treat you well. If you respect me, you will treat me well, which means we don't ignore each other, which means we can communicate about tough stuff, and we can move forward.
Honesty, communication, and trust. And you're right. I'm a communication coach. So communication is a huge obstacle for a lot of people to get past and work through. And communication is what goes south in a lot of relationships, and that dooms it.
Right. And I would actually add and this is a critical piece, that I will accept you for who you are. Now, that doesn't mean that I will accept all of your behavior, but I will not try to change who you are as a person, because that's disrespectful.
What's the difference? Because you hear people talk about like, oh, I accept you for who you are, but that's kind of like a cliche, kind of like a dream. Right. I want someone to accept all of me.
Well, okay,
but what does that really mean?
This unconditional love, it means I want you to love me unconditionally, but I'm not. But I'm only going to love you if you do A, B, C.
Exactly. Okay. So what does that mean? What's the difference between accepting you as a person but not your behavior all the time? Yeah.
Okay, so an example that I use is I am an introvert. I can do extroverted things, but there is not enough alcohol in the world to get me in a karaoke bar and have me sing. Sorry, I will be under the table, passed out. So if you want me to be extroverted, if you want me to love being the center of attention or whatever, it's like I can't do that. Now I can go and be sociable and be perfectly pleasant, but it's about a personality characteristic. It's sort of like I'm as old as I am. Now I can't change how old I am. I can't change how tall I am. I can't change the way I process information. Nobody wants me messing with computers or anything. I just do not have that kind of brain. Thank goodness there are people out there that can design computers and bridges and all that kind of stuff. That's not me. Now, I also have a temper. And that's part of who I am. I get passionate about things. But I can learn to behave in a different way. When I get upset, I can learn to keep my mouth shut as opposed to taking a flamethrower to everything in my path. Getting upset is part of who I am. But what I do with it is the behavior, whether it's acceptable or not. Does that kind of explain the difference?
It does. And I have a little bit of a deeper question, just because it's very interesting. All right. So using you as an example, you say you have a short temper. Couldn't someone say, well, you can work on changing that short temper?
Yes. And it's not necessarily an uncalled for or an unreasonable suggestion. But part of me likes, because any characteristic, any trait has a positive and a negative side to it. So part of what gets me upset is about, it touches into my compassion a lot of times. I can get really upset by what I think is unfair and unjust. In fact, my Myers-Briggs personality profile says, I'll go along, I'm pretty even-keeled until one of my values is violated, and then everybody watch out. But yes, it's a perfectly reasonable suggestion to say, can I work on not getting upset? And I don't know. I don't know if that's something I can change, but what I can definitely change is my behavior around it. Because I'm not sure I want to not be passionate.
People don't think I'm an introvert. People don't think you're not an introvert, Dennis. Then you don't know what an introvert is if you think I'm an introvert, which I understand why someone wouldn't think that about me, but then that means you don't know what it is then.
Yeah, people say that about me too, but it's like, no, they really don't understand what an introvert is. An introvert is not somebody who is not social. It's just how we're social.
Yeah. Yeah.
But part of this is, so for instance, if somebody really enjoys working with their hands and they love building things, and that's part of who they are, don't stick them in an office. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's horrible. That's changing who somebody is. Does that versus what they're doing?
Someone who and also it brings to the surface being self-aware enough to control your behavior, which means you have to know yourself and be self-aware enough to say, okay, I have these traits, but the behaviors that spring from them, maybe they could be modified or something like that. But you got to know yourself, be willing to be, as you say, radically honest with yourself.
Exactly. And how a partner presents maybe something you don't want to see is really the critical way, and it goes back to the communication, because and this is why I tell people, don't ever use the word you in the first 3 words of a sentence unless it's I love you, you're wonderful, I'm glad you're in my life. Then you can use it all you want. But the minute you say, well, you did this, or why did you, or you, now you've got a shot across the bow. And now we're headed to an argument versus something along the lines of, remember last Tuesday night when we were having this discussion and this happened? I really had a hard time with that. And I'm wondering, can we do it differently?
Yeah, it's about how you present it. Because when you start doing you did this, and then their defenses go up.
Or you always, you never. Oh my gosh.
You always do this to me.
Mm-hmm.
You never pay me enough attention when I need it.
Mm-hmm. And that's not going to fly with anybody. And so part of it is, how do we get to what we want? So if we do want a change in the behavior, we have to talk about the behavior, not the person.
Separating the behavior from the person. Which
is really interesting, because eons ago, back in the dark ages, and I'm not going to tell you how old I was when I heard it, there was a PSA push many years ago about how we speak to children. And our words matter. And
you talking about that commercial where they would just show the lips of the parents and they would show different parents putting their kids down?
Yeah, it would be like, you're stupid.
Yeah, I remember that commercial. I was just thinking about that commercial the other day, like, you're stupid. Right. You're worthless. You're a loser.
And we talk about the impact.
The parents' lips. And then you see the kids with their head down. And I remember that commercial.
Right. I want a PSA about how couples talk to each other, because we do the same thing.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so hard, because if we wouldn't say it to our kids, if we wouldn't tell our kids they're stupid, why would we tell our partner? Oh, that's just dumb.
Well, we separate that. Like, you can't talk to the kids like that. But yeah, your wife, you can call her whatever you want. Like, because we separate that. We shouldn't.
Right. Or your husband. This is the whole going back to the portrayal of husbands on television as incompetent. I mean, and I was guilty of it. And I will stand up. When my husband and I were first together, so people would say, when are you going to have children? And my clever retort was, oh, you mean another one? And I thought, oh my God, how disrespectful is that? My husband has never been childish in any way, ever. And so it's like, whoa, stop that. That is just really uncalled for, but we still do that. We treat men like they're children. And then we wonder why they act like it.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes, I do a lot of reading, and I think there was one time I read a book and I didn't necessarily know it was targeted towards women. And I was reading it and I'm like, wait, this is a book for women. And it was covered in all these kind of put downs of men. Like, we all know that men are big boys. We all know that men are immature. And so you have to do this. We all know that men are like, wow, like, this is the stuff that women read. This is how they look at men. Like, whoa. Right.
And this is why I want to give men a voice. That kind of crap has got to stop. And there's right now, there's all these women, not all these women, several women have been putting Facebook posts and so on and so forth about being really ticked off about their husbands not participating in the running of the household. And it's like, and my response is, okay, so how'd that happen? And a lot of the answers is, well, if I didn't do it, it wouldn't get done. Really? So what you're saying is your partner is not competent, your partner is not capable, your partner is not willing. And so you're just going to get mad, and then you're going to yell at him. Or one of the other things is, well, he'll do it, but he doesn't do it the way I want. or he does it wrong, you know. And okay, so do you want somebody to participate with you, or do you want them to do it your way? Because you can't have it both ways.
Yeah. It's true. I've seen a lot of relationships where, the women, they just constantly put down the men, and the men, this and that and the other, sort of like the comment you made about, oh, are you going to have kids? Oh, another one? I already have this one at home.
Right. Which was really not true. And it was like, stop saying that. That is just really uncalled for.
Yeah.
And part of this is, and by the way, a colleague of mine wrote a book many years ago called, oh gosh, The Secrets of Happily Married Men. And it was a bestseller. Then he made the mistake of writing The Secrets of Happily Married Women.
Oh.
And he got pilloried because he was basically calling women out on some of their less productive behaviors. And I just looked at Scott and I'm going, okay, Scott, you're braver than I am. But because to tell women that they're doing anything wrong, boy, yeah, which is, but again, I go back to, if women knew how to have successful relationships, why are they filing 80% of divorces?
Now that I didn't know. I didn't really even know who, you hear the divorce rate of it's 50%, but I don't know who's doing it. So 80% of divorces are filed by women.
Yep. So to me, if you're the one filing for divorce, somehow something went haywire. So maybe you don't know as much as you think you know. But again, it's like that book you were reading where it's talking about, how you have to treat men like children. Well, if you treat men like children, then don't get upset when they act like it.
Yeah.
And but my whole thing is for guys not to step into that portrayal of them. That's like, no, I'm not a kid. I'm not. Yeah. I'm a perfectly competent, capable human being.
So yeah, that's very important. So those 80% of women who are filing for divorce, 80% of the divorces are filed by women, and they say a lot of the reasons for divorce is infidelity. So, what do you think about that? If women are filing for divorce, claiming that their husbands have been unfaithful, then wouldn't that be a reasonable way to file for divorce?
Well, possibly. What people don't realize is that there are ways to recover from infidelity and actually make the relationship stronger. But the better part is to protect against infidelity in the first place, which means you have to be paying attention to what is happening for both people. Now, there are some people, and I think it's about 10% of the population, and I can't tell you who figured that out, but it's like 10 to 12% of the population who have no interest in being monogamous. So those people should not be getting married, whatever. But most of the people who have affairs, generally, one, don't necessarily go out looking for it. But part of it is also understanding what is involved in being in a committed monogamous relationship. And some people say, well, I can't have sex with the same person, forever. It's like, well, first off, that person, even though their physical body, that does change over time too, but it's the same physical person. The emotional and intellectual and spiritual person may and probably will change over the years, because hopefully we all continue to grow. So you aren't necessarily having sex with the same person. But it's also about making a commitment and understanding what that commitment is. And most people, when they stand up and take their marriage vows, do not have a clue as to what it is they're promising.
Yeah.
And part of that is to take care of your partner and the relationship. So if there's a problem, you need to be able to come to the table with it. the number of sexless marriages is growing.
Mm.
And that is potentially a problem. Now, if neither one of you are interested in sex, great, no harm, no foul. But if one of you is interested in sex and the other one isn't, you've got a problem. And the catch-22 that a lot of people find themselves in is, I'm not going to have sex with you, but you can't have sex with anybody else.
Yeah. Mm.
And that's not okay. I had a male client many years ago who basically said, I'd give up ever having sex again if she would just let me hug her. I said, don't you dare make that deal. That's a deal with the devil. Yeah, it's a deal with the devil.
But you see, but that sounds to me, just, you know, putting on my coach hat, someone said that he seems like he's very hurt.
Oh, he was incredibly hurt.
Incredibly, for him to say something like that.
Oh yeah.
Wow, the trauma that must be inside of him.
Yeah, he was incredibly hurt. But again, going back to what men are allowed, you know, a lot of times when it comes out, when men are asking for that physical connection, women are just thinking they're dogs. It's like, they're not dogs. They're trying to connect with you. I call it the cosmic joke. Whoever decided men and women should live together for a long time. But men a lot of times need the physical release to connect, to open up emotionally, and women need the emotional connection to open up physically.
Yeah.
So when the relationship is good, both people are willing to make that leap.
Yeah.
But again, it's about how men are allowed to talk, because again, and this is something that men really struggle with, that women want them to share their thoughts, feelings, and emotions, but they don't want the men to be too vulnerable and and be weak. So it's like, okay, great. Can we let the guys out of the box?
Yeah, I want you to tell me what you think unless it sounds weak. I want to know how you feel unless it's too girly.
Right.
You know, so then why are you asking me how I feel if I'm not allowed to say anything?
Right. Exactly.
And how do I know what your scale is for girliness?
Exactly. And, you know, and so a lot of times women have set up what I consider a really unfair dichotomy, is that we want men to be men, but we don't want them to be men. It's like, okay, so I'm sorry, what are they supposed to do? You know, it's kind of like.
And then they complain that there's no men around.
Well, exactly. They say they're, you know, all the good guys are taken. And it's kind of like, no, actually they're not. But are you giving this guy a chance? Or do you have some standard against which you're judging him? That is an unfair standard, that if the shoe were on the other foot and that's the way women were being judged, we'd be furious about it. And again, this whole dance, I mean, it's been going on since the beginning of time,
Yeah.
of trying to figure this out.
Yeah.
And it's really about, and you know, in order to be in a successful relationship with somebody else, we have to first be in a successful relationship with ourselves.
Absolutely. That's definitely, and people really don't give that nearly the amount of importance and weight that it has.
Exactly.
A lot of people do. It's incredible how many people just don't build that relationship with themselves and are radically honest with themselves and are willing to admit things to themselves.
Well, because we all want to think of ourselves as being these terrific people. And so when we actually start looking at, it's like, I don't know about this. Then here's the thing, we might actually have to do something about it. Whereas a lot of people look to relationships to fix whatever those holes, flaws, whatever are. And your partner, there's no way your partner can do that.
That's very important. That's very important, about just realizing that a relationship isn't going to fix you. No person's going to come along and fix you. You have to fix yourself, and the relationship is the icing on the cake once you've gotten your shit together. Yeah. Well,
but I mean, and marriage can actually help us do that, because we are living. It's like I said, marriage is a truly unique relationship. I know you're never supposed to modify the word unique, but it truly is. it's a combination of every other relationship we've ever been in. It's a legal partnership. It is an intimate relationship. We live with this person 24/7. They're our friend. They're our relative. Any relationship we've ever been shows up here. And this is our chance to heal all those hurts from the past.
That is an excellent point. I don't mean to, but that is an excellent point. I actually, I've never heard someone say that. That's excellent. It's a combination of everything, because you have the legal thing there, you have the relative thing there, you have the intimate thing there, you have the roommate thing there. Mm-hmm. If you have kids, you have they're not your parent, but both of you are being parents. Mm-hmm. So variations of all that. Yeah.
Right. And it's that which makes it so complicated. And so that's why, going back to when you asked me what one of the criteria was, that's where the trust comes in, is I have to trust you enough so that I can continue to grow.
Yeah. Excellent. So how can someone avail themselves of your services? Like how does someone get in contact with you because they want to get married or their marriage is in trouble?
Yeah, my goal is to keep marriages out of trouble. I'd really love to put myself out of a job, but I don't think I'm going to.
No, probably not ever.
Yeah. Well, there are a couple of different ways that people can get in touch with me. One of the best ways would be to go to my brand new program, which is called the Hero Husband Project. All one word. There's a website, the Hero Husband Project. They can also send me an email, Lesli, Lesli, no E, thank you, Mom, at foundationscoachingnc.com. That's FOUNDATIONS coaching, N as in Nancy, C as in Charlie.com. That's definitely one way. They can find me on Facebook. They can find me on Twitter. Anyway, because one of the things is, and love Dr. Phil or hate Dr. Phil, he always said the only thing worse than being in a bad relationship is being in a bad relationship. Sorry, the only thing worse than being in a bad relationship for 5 years is being in a bad relationship for 5 years and 1 day. So, everybody struggles with in the beginning of marriage, because like I said, we don't know how to manage the normal stuff. We don't know what normal is because nobody talks about it. So if you've got questions, just shoot me an email, ask me questions. I've got the Hero Husband Project is a Facebook page. Please go to that and ask me your questions. I'll be happy to talk to you.
Well, this has been excellent, an excellent conversation about this mystery that we call marriage. And, me personally, I think that you can have a great relationship with or without marriage with the right tools and all the things we're talking about. But if you're going to decide to get married, at least try to make it last, because you're marrying them for a reason. There's a reason why you're taking that step and signing those legal papers and binding yourself to each other and trusting that you won't run off with each other's assets in 2 years over a divorce or something. It's an enormous amount of trust, both emotionally and legally. So, if you're going to take that step, please try to do it right for the sake of you, your relationship, and your children, if there's any involved.
Absolutely.
Thanks for coming on the program.
Well, I so appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
I just remembered. There is another Core Confidence Life podcast that relates to this topic. It's actually a good show, too. If you go to www.coreconfidencelife.com and do a search for CCL8, I'm also discussing this issue as well. So thank you for the guests for coming on. If you want to be a guest on the program, just hop to me at Dennis@coreconfidencelife.com. Dennis@coreconfidencelife.com. I would love to hear your feedback about this or any other show. Any suggestions or questions you may have for me. always go to coreconfidencelife.com for the latest in the podcasts and articles and everything else having to do with building your core self-confidence as a man on the stage, in the office, or at home.